Main event, it is the men's blood and guts match. So Death Riders against the conglomeration with Roderick Strong and Darby Allin. So Darby and Wheeler start off the match in the 5-minute period, and this time it is Yuta getting his forehead cut open with tacks on the skateboard. I don't know, on a scale of 1 to sky blue, I would say Yuta was what, a good 5 to 6 here?
Sure, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. The scale was going to be broken later. Okay, spoiler. Orange Cassidy is third, and he bends his sunglasses to use as weapons. And at one point, Orange Cassidy goes for a cover and is informed, no, that's not how this works. Fourth is Daniel Garcia, who came out in what I can best describe was a COVID mask.
A face mask. Yeah.
It looked very surgical mask in
surgical mask
design. Okay.
It was.
Well, depending on in certain parts of the country, that will be a heel tactic.
Well, there's a lot of blood in this match. You know,
it came right off as soon as he got in. He was
prepared at least. Okay.
So
he's only a Death Rider name. All right. He's actually a very, safe.
The cautious riders.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They wear helmets. So the Death Riders had the number. They were at the babyfaces were at the numbers disadvantage in this. Sorry, I have this all wrong. The babyfaces had the numbers advantage in this match. Mm-hmm. So Garcia and Yuta worked together as a tag team here against Cassidy and Darby Allin. And then the fifth entrant is supposed to be Mark Briscoe, but we go to the back and he's been laid out in his locker room, and Roderick Strong comes out in his place. So more to come on Mark Briscoe. Then it's Claudio Castagnoli, the veteran of this match. This is his third blood and guts match, and he delivered this giant swing to Darby while having Orange Cassidy on his back. I mean, just something else. And then he military presses Darby from one ring to the next. Roderick has gotten busted open after a chair shot, and seventh is Kyle O'Reilly. Now, I didn't know if Kyle O'Reilly was necessarily going to be the star of this match, but there's an old saying of leave it all in the ring. This man left it all in the ring. There was nothing left of this man to walk to the back with.
50% of him was left on this canvas. Yes.
Yes. A portion of him will always be remembered in Greensboro. So Claudio wraps a chain around his arm. The Death Riders are in control, despite being at the numbers disadvantage here. And Claudio military presses Darby and Orange Cassidy into the cage. Eighth out is John Moxley, and he has brought a fork. And this would turn out to be the most devastating weapon of the entire match, because he just goes on a stabbing spree to Kyle, who shoots in for the single leg and gets stabbed with the fork, which is that's a rookie mistake for any young grapplers out there. You always defend for the fork, okay?
Yes, of course.
Always got to be ready for that, okay? That's what got Hodger near the end of his grappling career. So then he just stabs Kyle. More to come on him. Then he stabs Darby in the back and just grinds this fork down the back of Darby. We cut to Kyle, who looks like he's I don't know what to say. Like, this guy is a horror film extra at the corner, because he is so bloody and has lost inordinate amounts of blood at this point. It was insane how much blood this man had deposited here in the ring. Ninth is supposed to be Mark Briscoe, but Renee says he's being tended to. It will now be a 5-on-4 match. So they continue to beat down the baby faces. Kyle tries
to... It was just amusing hearing Renee give us this super professional report while her husband was stabbing the shit out of Kyle O'Reilly with a fork.
Yeah. It's just, that's just how things go. I think they've just given up on kind of having any connectivity.
That's the relationship. We don't judge.
Yes.
It's all good. Yeah.
And then once a year, they have a drive and they film it, and Renee lets everything out.
Yes.
November on the Post Wrestling Cafe will include Rewind Away, looking at some of the biggest retirement matches in pro wrestling history with selections from All Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, and Stardom, among others. Plus, we'll have reviews of TNA Turning Point, UFC 322 from Madison Square Garden, and the Tanahashi Final Homecoming. John and Wai will be taking all of your questions on this month's installment of Ask Away, and John gets together with Brandon from New Jersey for a Season 4 retrospective of 90210. All that and so much more. Join now at postwrestlingcafe.com. $6 gets you in the door. So Kyle tries to fight back despite the blood loss. I don't know if this man was legit delirious or else his selling was just impeccable here, because he looked like he was a man that was about to pass out. Claudio applies the sharpshooter onto O'Reilly, but Darby scales the top of the cage, drops down onto everyone with a coffin drop, breaking it up, and then Pac is the 10th man out, starting the official match, which prompts Mark Briscoe, the smartest man in this match, to let them kill each other for 40 minutes, and then I'll come out. So he comes out with bolt cutters and a toolbox, and puts Daniel Garcia onto a table on the floor, and Briscoe climbs on top of the cage, but Garcia rolls off. So Yuta meets Briscoe up there, and these two would spend like a long amount of time on top of this cage. But Briscoe has a plan. He's got a rope attached to a carabiner that he descends to the floor, hooks up the chairs, and brings them up to the top of the cage. And so we had chairs on top of the cage.
This is pretty impressive because like he brought the chairs up to like one of the sort of like trusses that actually protruded beyond the fence itself. So we were all waiting to see whether or not he would actually be able to complete this, and he was able to pluck it out and successfully brought it.
Yeah, they cut away because they felt it's like, oh, this is going to look embarrassing. And then we cut back and he had gotten them through. So man does not wilt under pressure. And
all this after the Don Callis family attack as well.
I mean, the remarkable recuperative skills. Garcia uses a wrench on Kyle's ear, then chokes him with a chain. Like, this was the passion of the Kyle. Briscoe hits a J driller to Yuta on the top of the cage, and then just calmly climbs down the cage. I was all for this. I was like, we don't need a man being thrown off here. Then Gabe Kidd appears, and he has brought a taser. Tases Darby, and they take him to the stage with Pac, and he is sent off of the tunnel through a flaming table that Gabe has lit. And that was the end of Darby, who just burned to the back.
We obviously didn't get it in the other Moxley match, but we're not in Kansas anymore.
I liked it. So that's the end of Darby. And then we have a bulldog choke applied to Kyle as the man is just bleeding profusely, gives the middle finger, so they put a chair around his neck. Orange Cassidy has had his hands stapled inside of his pockets, rips out the hands and fights back. And at this point, like, my only criticism, and it really isn't a criticism because it all worked in the end. It was just like the heat was, I'm not exaggerating, like a half an hour of heat for the Death Riders, just destroying these guys, and so little comeback for them. But all of a sudden, Orange Cassidy comes to life, and he fires off these orange punches, and then Kyle gets a transfusion from somebody ringside, and he gets his power back, and he starts going after everyone. He's got the ankle lock applied to Moxley. They put everyone through tables, and the crowd erupts at this point. They are so into this babyface comeback. Moxley counters Kyle's ankle lock to a bulldog choke. Kyle goes to the armbar, transitions back to the ankle lock, and this is the signal that these matches on TV have totally made Kyle believable, because this crowd was so ready to explode. And then with this ankle lock deep, all the Death Riders are out. Moxley has the look of fear on his face as he has to tap out, and this place exploded. 54 minutes and 8 seconds this blood guts match goes, and it ends with just a gigantic pop, and Kyle O'Reilly is the future of the industry.
Incredible. When this match ended, first of all, I was actually jumping up and down. And as like somebody who watches as much wrestling as I do, like that's just I don't lose myself into matches like this that often anymore. So it takes a really special match for me to like actually react that way. I was so happy for everybody involved, not just in this match, but in this entire company, because they stuck the landing on this incredible match that I think is already immediately among my top matches of the year. But this entire company stuck the landing on, I thought, one of the best editions of Dynamite that I've ever seen. Top to bottom, everything was just outstanding, and they peaked with the best stuff. What a great match. And I just felt like, man, the booking was brilliant. Like you had, so this was a very unique match in that, I mean, you had the baby faces win the advantage. They won the coin. Well, they won the advantage matches, right? So they started off with the advantage and they used it to basically have Wheeler Yuta get beaten up for like a good 10 minutes, and that was tremendously entertaining. But eventually when they actually wanted to, you know, like build to the comeback, they did it thanks to like not just the Mark Briscoe Don Callis family attack. They kind of just did it through Claudio Castagnoli and just how awesome Claudio Castagnoli was. Because the moment that the Death Riders actually took over, it was actually a fair fight. Like Roderick Strong had taken Briscoe's place, but because Claudio is so dominant, he gave the advantage to the heels even when they lost the advantage match. So I love that. And then like when the Briscoe stuff finally comes into play during the match beyond, like it leaves the heels with an even greater advantage because they're already beating the shit out of people. Then you have Moxley come in, then you have Pac come in. So now you have a 6-on-5 advantage. In the match beyond, like when pinfalls actually matter. So like the baby faces are like super down. And then of course when Briscoe comes back, I mean it adds a level of like spectacle to this. He does all that stuff on top of the cage with Yuta, which I thought was awesome. I thought Moxley continues to just be amazing in this match, in this entire like year. Really, he brought like so much intensity with that fork. His entire story, I think, has just been so good. All those matches he had with Kyle O'Reilly, in the Roderick Strong match he had, this great storytelling that they did with him as like the leader of the Death Riders who was starting to like crumble, built into this story really well. And it started with him coming out fourth instead of 5. I'm mixing the numbers with the women, but he came out 4th instead of 5, which, you know, the announcers were bringing up, and which I think to us speaks that the Death Riders are losing confidence in him as the closer. They are instead, you know, choosing to use Pac in that position. So I think that already says a lot, and we'll continue to see the fallout of this maybe as soon as next Wednesday or even Saturday. I love the fact that Pac was the final man because it already like shows that, hey, like when Moxley is out of here, Pac is going to be the guy. He's going to be the new leader. He's going to be the person who actually can get shit done. And the stunts were insane. Darby going through the flaming table, just everything they did. Creatively, it was incredibly satisfying. In terms of violence, it was incredibly satisfying. In terms of story, like I was concerned after Strong got that win that they were going to take away focus from Kyle and that it would just be like a Jon Moxley losing story. Well, Kyle O'Reilly felt like the main character coming out of this match, and they put the spotlight on him brilliantly through the weeks of build leading up to this one moment. It's just satisfied everything. This was one of my favorite matches of the year.